hello to my It's the Yoga group, our It's the Yoga group. I'm out on some of the bluffs in Long Beach again. I like this spot for some reason. Although this time I'm at a different angle where you can see some of the buildings sort of, and even the street over here, and then the water's over there. So hello, and I'm going to aim to not give you the extreme close-up selfies as I'm talking. Sometimes I lean in. I hear that's kind of actually a term these days in like the inspirational self-help world is how we should be leaning in. So sometimes I lean in a little too much in these recordings. So welcome. And yeah, I've been thinking about this idea of how are you? When we ask someone, how are you? How it's like we need a new question, because I notice, even especially in this last year, of doing more work to be noticing feelings and really allowing them more and freeing them up more and just looking at them differently and in a way that I could see as maybe a more yoga way to be with feelings. So I guess this goes as part of a yoga approach to feelings, is that when we ask each other, which is really a loving, sweet question if we really do care about, like, how are you? But I'll notice myself, usually, at least in the past, I would answer, good, great. And, there usually is stuff that's good and great. So it's not that I'm not being truthful, but I've also noticed that there seems to be this truth to life. Maybe I'm now 47, so maybe I'm just starting to get this. And this is maybe because I've had such a privileged, blessed life myself. And I love seeing there's such a magic to life, and I really do see for so many of us things do work out in so many ways, and life is so good. But part of that is that all of us always have something that is challenging us. It's like undeniably true. There's always something that's going on for us. And not to be like negative, but more to be honest. And actually that serves us to even know that there's always going to be some teachers we might call it contrast, that there's always going to be some sort of contrast in our life, right? There's always going to be something. There's always going to be something. And then, oh, hello, little gnat. And that when we really notice that often, as soon as that thing resolves, there's something else. And that even with things that are like our answered prayers or the things we do want, our creations, our projects, our relationships, everything, there's going to be this continuous unfolding and expansion that includes contrast. So there's always something and then it kind of gives us a human compassion too, to see that everybody around us right now is stressed about something. Like whether or not they're actually actively stressing about it, there's something they could be stressing about, right? And so as I'm thinking about this answer now, as I'm even more just, I guess in a yogi way, being with myself, connecting with myself, realizing things about myself, observing myself, and also learning to love myself, which I feel like I'm just getting started on that. Maybe this is part of loving ourselves more, is allowing for the truth that there's this well-rounded thing going on with life, and that every one of us always have something that's going on that could be something that we could feel terrible about even. Whether it's something with ourselves or something with someone we love. Like right now there's these terrible fires going on all around us here in Southern California. So there's always things that, and it feels more human to even let ourselves feel that. And so when we ask each other, like, how are you? We can say good, reporting, because there's always good to report. But truthfully, right, it's like good and bad, or there's been things that have felt easy and hard, and I've had emotions that feel good and bad, and so yeah, it's just kind of interesting, because I think usually when we ask each other that question, we're not really leaving room for an authentic response. And then, yeah, I still even find myself, it's interesting, like, how do I want to respond to that? And even if we believe that what we focus on grows, you know, what story we tell plays into what we create, then we certainly think twice even how we answer that question. But yeah, so maybe we need a new question with each other. Like, to be more specific. Like, you might say, what's good? I'm thinking some people say, what's good? But I was remembering one of my grandmothers, Virginia, who was very grateful by the time I got to be around her. I can see, even though, because of some of the really hard stuff she went through in her life. And that's what's interesting, too, is that the really hard stuff can really make us more grateful. But her answer, I remember when people would ask her, how you doing, Virginia? She would say, well, can't complain. And so now I can see why that was a good answer, because it was the recognizing that, well, there's probably stuff I could complain about, and not that there's not a benefit to complaining, right, or sharing our pain, or really being willing to say, I've been terrible. Oh my God, it's been so hard. Life has sucked, and I've felt really bad. And to be even ready to, like, be in that with each other, if that's the answer, that would be a yoga approach too. So yeah, that's some of what prompted this video, is my thinking about this. How do we really answer when, now just this year, even with myself, when I'll see, especially when I see some of my friends who are doing the work themselves, you know, and really, like, that's kind of the piece I didn't expect, probably, with doing a lot more, say, meditating this year, a lot more of just looking within and checking out how I think and what I'm thinking about and how I feel and how I'm responding to people, and what I still remember that's painful, and feelings that are in there that I didn't know about that I've needed to free up, and things that trigger me, and how I can look at that and work with that and actually just start to see that as a bonus to, you know, I do believe that something triggers us, it's because it's something within ourselves that we have feelings about, whether it's because it's something we know we do that we don't like, or whatever. So triggers, I've learned to use triggers, even though, yeah, it's not necessarily just good feeling to even know we're doing this. So, yeah, how you doing? Maybe not the best question, or maybe we can find better ways to authentically answer that with a gratitude, and again, like that compassion that we're all going through something always, and of course there's other people's stuff might even feel harder for us, right? So yeah, and I'd love to talk a lot more in the future about a yoga approach to feelings, because I'm excited about this. I feel like emotions and feelings are like one of the current almost like afflictions, right? Something that so many of us, young people to elderly, some people are just really having a terrible time within their feelings and emotions. And I know sometimes I feel like I am too. And I think it's really, I would say a more yoga approach, if I were to just say briefly here, would be to honor feelings. And if whatever's going on for us, to be willing to honor that with love and a gentle approach and a response, but maybe a little more like a solution-based response, if there is. And the solution would be just anything that might soothe us or help us feel a little better. But just the allowing of it and the feeling of it helps a lot. And that we can also start to see that feelings, though, have a big, huge gift in that they can be such a form of guidance for us. And especially if we have like a spiritual feeling about life, or if we just really get this feeling that we do have this inner self, this true self, this higher self, this divine part of us, or that we're actually like hearing from God or our spiritual support or spirit or whatever we might call it, intuition, that our feelings are a part of that. So I love that. That's like my favorite spin on feelings, is that we can even start to see that often when we're not having great feelings, that if we look at what we're thinking or focusing on, it may be very different than what that more true part of us, that more loving part of us would think or see or say or feel or focus on about yourself or others or your life or a situation. So I love that. So I think there's a lot we can learn and grow. And I see it as a yoga approach because remember, yoga just means more connected. So really anything, a more connected approach to our feelings, what that would be. And that actually also, that the solution is always more ways to reconnect. Whether that be just reconnect with ourselves, maybe that's spending time with ourselves, maybe that's ways that we can listen to ourselves more and do things that are kind of like meditation for us, whether it's actually sitting and listening or laying down and closing our eyes, or a walk, or things like journaling are amazing to listen to ourselves more. Yeah, there's just a lot of cool ways that we can see that the connection, the reconnecting, is what can be the solution. So that's where we could say a yoga approach is twofold. Well, it's got a lot. I paused myself, sorry. That a yoga approach would be coming at it from a more connected perspective and using connection as the solution. And then what I love to see it as like you could, if you really can start to figure out what really helps you reconnect, whether it's things you've done since you were little or things you just have been exposed to, or if you just know you need to find more ways to reconnect. If you have no idea what helps you connect, yeah, that you can see that what a yoga approach would be okay. How can I come at this in a more connected way, and all the ways that might look. And you might say connected with what? Connected with myself, connected with spirit. So that even might be like, how can I look at this from a more spiritual approach too? Or from just a more authentic you approach too. Sorry, headphones popped out. But so speaking of, there was a disconnect. That's interesting. But yeah, we'll have to get into feelings more in the future because I feel like it's the next frontier that a lot of us are really ready to be able to just look at differently and allow ourselves to experience. Like one of my favorite quotes has something to do with we're not here to feel happy but to feel. So I love that idea too, that we could just be more open to feeling as just part of being human and not being so afraid of the feelings and not getting stuck in like labels about feelings. Yeah. Like, I would love to share even more like what can we do to handle things like feelings and mood from a more yoga connected approach. So more on that. But yeah, I'll try not to ask you, how are you? Or if I do, I'm going to be ready to actually listen and be ready for you to share terrible, horrible, and actually cry. Or laugh or not share at all, or bypass the answer. But tell me if you have some other ideas on how we could greet each other with, instead of, how are you? Unless we're really ready to listen and answer authentically. I feel like it's just maybe setting us up to not be authentic with our response. And maybe that's a more yoga approach too, to just be more of ourselves, which is interesting. That's a whole nother series of videos. All right. Thank you so much for being here and sending lots of love, however you're feeling right now. And let me know if I can help you with any just simple ideas on how to use your yoga in some really easy ways to help you with your feelings and even help you shift your feelings and also honor your feelings and also feel better. All right. See you soon. Namaste.